Welcome back to the show. We're about to learn the secret sauce. All right, excellent. Leon, what is up? How are you doing?
Doing good, brother. Doing good. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, I've seen you on Twitch quite a bit.
Yeah.
100 Devs. I know you from 100 Devs.
Yeah.
I didn't know the Resilient Coders connection until later.
Yeah.
But and what, I don't know, when did 100 Devs start?
100 Devs started just under 3 years ago.
Under 3 years ago,
Yeah.
like 2020?
Yeah,
at that point?
2020, late 2020. Our first like real cohort was 2021. Our first big cohort was 2022. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, because I would watch, it was like, I guess evenings, our time, because you're on the West Coast. And yeah, I would watch just you doing the teaching and training, and then I started telling everybody I do.
I appreciate
It's
it.
like
Thank you.
100 Devs, just check out the hashtag. You'll eventually find your way
Yeah.
to where the streams are.
We built a pretty amazing community, and it's been wonderful to see so many folks active across all the different platforms. We pull in a lot of folks from Twitter, and it's just been great to see a lot of engineers such as yourself kind of help us out. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's actually do a quick intro. So let the audience know who you are and what do you do.
Sure. My name is Leon. I am the Managing Director of Engineering for Resilient Coders, and I'm a community member and teacher at 100 Devs, which is a free live coding boot camp originally, but now we're working on a paid pathway for anyone to learn how to code.
Excellent. So pathway is it like courses?
Yeah. So our ultimate goal is an agency model where companies come to us to get the wealth of experience. Our graduates have gone on to work at Amazon, Microsoft, all the big tech companies you can think of. They come back to lead projects that folks that are learning can go through. And while they're learning, they can also commit to issues and get paid as they go through the learning journey.
Okay.
So completely
excellent.
free, but now also paid.
Okay. So yeah, the paid journey is that you get paid.
Yeah, you get paid. You're not paying us money. In fact, like that's our whole ethos. Like a dollar should never come out of your pocket to learn.
Yeah.
We really believe in free education, but unfortunately free isn't free for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of our folks are taking 10 plus hours a week to learn. That time comes away from themselves, their families, their ability to provide for themselves. And when we asked our community, hey, how much money would you need to actually be able to learn? It's $200 a week for some of those folks. And so we're trying to build a pathway for them to where if you don't have the privilege of free time, you can also still learn.
Yeah, which is huge because boot camps, I don't know what the price of boot camps are now. It's like got to be like 20K or something crazy
Yeah,
like that.
it's pretty wild. 12 to I've seen with full in stipends like $80,000. Yeah,
Wow.
on the really high end. And that's just the cost that a lot of folks can't bear, not only monetarily, but you're giving up a lot of time away from loved ones and that ability to provide for them.
Yeah.
And so for folks that can see the opportunity of a boot camp as something that could help them grow and get to a career that they want, it's still super unattainable, even with things like I hate them, but like ISAs and kind of deferred payments, things like that, it's still not enough.
Yeah, I say being income share agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think App Academy was the first one I saw do that, where you like give up like 10-15% of your salary for first year, second year, third year, or whatnot, which is kind of like indentured servitude a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if
We're
anybody's
just
like,
calling it a fancy three-letter name,
Yeah.
as pretending it's something different, but it's not. And I think that's the other thing too, is that even though 100 Devs is a free program, the thing that we're always thinking about is that being free is not enough because people's time is often even more valuable than
Yeah.
the monetary commitment that they make for a traditional boot camp. And so we're really respectful of that time. We're really respectful of the idea that we do it traditionally post work hours. We're making sure that all the classes you can catch up with. We like to call them the illustrious catch up crew. So if you don't have the privilege of doing it live, you can always catch up with a whole community of folks that want to support you as you continue.
very cool ketchup crew.
Yeah.
From being open sauce, we're big fans of ketchup.
Hey, there we
over
go.
here. Excellent. Yeah. So, I mean, my story is I did a boot camp. It wasn't a boot camp then.
Yeah.
It was block and you got a mentor 1-to-1 and you go through the curriculum and you meet with your mentor once a week.
Yeah.
And I got so much value out of that. It didn't scale, which is
Yeah.
why they got acquired and no longer
Yeah.
around. But I also had just had my first kid at that same time.
Yeah.
So when you talk about time, it's like that was more expensive than how much it cost, because it would cost $5,000 at that time, which was cheap in today's dollars.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm getting at is like I spent my nights and weekends learning, and I knew it was like either now or never. Like,
Yeah.
So it was lunchtime at work. It was get home, put the kid to sleep, and be like, basically have my wife go to sleep, and I would just be up
Yeah.
until like 1 a.m. So since I'm already up, like waiting for the kid to like,
Yeah.
because he had a lot of like reflux issues and stuff like that. Wait for him to wake up. I just be like learning nonstop, and then go to sleep for 4 hours and then go to work.
Yeah.
And that was like my life for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I don't encourage anybody else to do that. Like there's definitely another path for other people, like where you could be sustainable in your learning journey, which I think like getting a paid learning opportunity is a much better opportunity
Yeah.
than my situation.
And I think one of the things I've realized after doing this for 10 years, as hectic and wild as that seems, it's still a privilege that a lot of folks don't have. And when I look at kind of the graduation rates out of RC, even 100 devs now, it's always those barriers that stop people from progressing, right? It's not a want or a desire to learn. It's the fact that life gets in the way, and how can we remove those barriers of life getting in the way for everyone? And boot camps are great. They don't scale with those problems, right? They don't provide a pathway for anyone, specifically like the physical in-person boot camps. And so while they're amazing, and I think that a lot of folks can get value out of them if they have that privilege of time, that privilege of monetary funds, we're trying to build something with 100 devs that works for everyone. And so if you are going to do a paid boot camp, I don't have any qualms against it. I think they're great. They provide two really fundamental things. One, you've paid a lot of money to be there, so you're probably going to show up. And then two, you do have that community.
Yeah.
And that community, I think, is the most important thing, like the folks that are with you, that mentor that you mentioned. And so at 100 devs, even though you might be doing it singularly, we talk about ourselves as community taught, right? Where it's not just me, it's a community of folks that are streaming, a community of folks that are on Discord that are bringing you along on that journey where you're having discussions and dialogue, and it's just not a singular kind of like MOOC experience. It's something more than that. And so I think that community that you get from like a physical or paid boot camp, we're trying to replicate online, because I agree it's one of the most beneficial things when you're learning.
Yeah. It's sort of what you explained of levels and like paid boot camps, paid experience. I think it's the same thing with universities, like where you have the opportunity to go to university. Some people don't have that opportunity. So they go to community college. Some people don't have that. So they go to trade school, and like you continue to trickle down, trickle up, whatever it is. But I guess what I'm getting at is like, there's different paths for everyone. I think the real important part that there is a path, that people know there's a path. And like going back to my situation and me growing up, I didn't have a mentor when I was in high school or middle school to say, hey, do computers. Like this is an opportunity that is going to be great for your career moving forward. It was just, I had to stumble into it years later.
I think one of the things that particularly comes up, particularly in the Black community, is doctor, lawyer, dentist.
Yes.
Right. So my whole trajectory of like learning, I was super into robotics at a very early age. I loved to build. My only toy I ever wanted to play with was Legos. Once I got into high school, I was always tinkering with computers that they had there. Like I went to an engineering high school, right? Literally engineering is in our title. And still I wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And so all the signs pointed to engineering being my pathway, but there was nobody to be like, hey, you should do this engineering thing. It was doctor, lawyer, dentist. And so I feel as though if I had, like you said, that mentorship early on, I would have started this journey a lot sooner, and it would have been, I think, had a really big impact. So I think you're right. Like having that pathway, making that pathway known, and supporting folks through it. Because if we look at traditional pathways, we look at, like, say, university. If you're talking about university pathway, that's excluding almost 70% of the population in the US that don't go through that pathway. The folks that do go through that pathway are being saddled with debt. We know to even get into that pathway, you need it to be in a good school that got decent grades, but to be in a good school, you need to have the money or live in that area. But to live in that area, you need to be able to get a mortgage. To get a mortgage, you had to be not Black. And so,
I mean,
even the pathways that we put together right now, don't support people that look like us. And so my journey at RC is to build one of those pathways, and then with 100 devs to build a pathway for anyone everywhere.
Yeah, can we start with your journey at RC? And like, first, what is Resilient Coders?
Yeah.
And then like, how did you get involved, and what's your role today?
Sure, yeah. So Resilient Coders is a free stipended boot camp for folks of color in the Boston and now Philadelphia area. And so we originally started, David Delmar, our founder, started it off as kind of an intervention program for incarcerated youth or returning citizens coming back from that system. We were focused really with young men predominantly, and it worked. And one of our like dirty little secrets is the first dollars that we ever brought in actually came from the Boston Police Department. Like that's the first funding we took in. And it was a program where we were trying to give them skills that they could utilize to change their economic future. And it worked, but it wasn't the scale that we wanted, the impact that we wanted to have. In Boston, we have a fundamental problem where it's hard to go through this without getting angry, where we have our politicians that'll get on the podium and be ecstatic about a 2 to 3% unemployment rate. When if you just look over their shoulder, I don't know if we can curse. Can we curse? I don't know.
Sure.
You look over their fucking shoulder and you see the neighborhood behind them, it's double-digit unemployment. So how do we exist in, at that time, the second largest tech economy outside the Valley, and you're touting a 2% unemployment rate when we're talking about double digits up to 30% when the pandemic hit? How dare, right? Like, how dare? And so at that moment, when you see that reaction, you have to realize the cavalry ain't coming. We look at the jobs that our Black and brown brothers and sisters depend on in, say, Boston, they're going away. Number one job for a Black male, a little trivia, you can guess.
Garbage collection?
It's close. Drivers. Number one job for Black male. Number one job for Black female.
Man. Admin?
Close. Yeah. So admin's like number 2 or 3. Number 1 is retail associate.
Okay.
So let's just stop and think about that for a second. Driver, that's gone. How soon do we want to guess? 5 to 10 years max. TuSimple already has self-driving trucks on the road. We already have a number of companies trying to get self-driving working. So the number one job that our communities rely on for Black males, gone. And we're already in double-digit unemployment. Number one job for Black females, retail associate. I don't know last time you've been to CVS and talked to a human. It's been years for me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, self-checkout.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's been a thing for a while.
14,000 kiosks at McDonald's, so you don't even have to order food by talking to someone anymore. These jobs are going away. So when you realize the cavalry ain't coming, our jobs are being engineered away from us. How do we get folks into this vibrant tech economy? And the way that we saw was through developing folks' software engineering skill set. There's this window of opportunity that honestly doesn't require a degree. You can learn it. You said how long was your boot camp?
12 weeks.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
And it can unlock a career that's 4 times the mean average for somebody in the Boston area. And it's a no-brainer. So for the past 6 years now, we've worked on building a program that can take someone from 0 technical skills, and our program's 18 weeks, to give them the skills they need to unlock this whole economy. And our secret goal, or not so secret goal, is that if we can get someone, specifically someone in like the 18 to 30-year-old range, into what our average is $92,000 to $94,000 a year, that's millions of dollars of investment back into the communities that we wish to work with. And it has a whole new meaning to being able to hire folks. Because when you look at the biggest tech companies in Boston, you look at their employment numbers, less than 3% Black or brown in some of the largest tech companies. And at the company I'm thinking about that's the largest and one of the largest employers in Boston, you look at their leadership, it's less than 1%.
Yeah.
So when our students get these jobs and they get these jobs well, they turn around and they hire 3 more. That's the only cost. So the only cost at RC that ever comes out is I want you to turn around, bring 3 more people with you, and 100 devs is the same thing. You'll never pay a dime. You're going to pay with your time, and you're going to pay with the ability of turning around and bringing 3 more folks with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard a story of recently I was at a Microsoft event and we got to talk to a bunch of leaders in particular, like within the Azure group. And one in particular he came from a country, I forgot, I'm blanking on the name of the country, but outside the coast of outside the coast of South America, there's a black island. And he made his way all the way to work at Microsoft. And his mantra the entire time he's worked there is when the elevator goes up with you, like make sure you send the elevator back down.
Hell yeah.
Cause like you've gotta, like people are always like, it's unfortunate, but as a person in the space, a black male in the space, like I'm a mentor to so many people when I don't even know most of them.
Yeah.
But I realized that burden because I was a benefactor of someone else who brought me up in the elevator. And it's one of those things that we actually, back when, I worked at GitHub almost 5 years. I was pre-Microsoft acquisition. And one of the things with the Black to Cats that we had to have the conversation around was we're all going to get a big windfall of stock, Microsoft stock or cash. Like, what does that mean? Well, everyone else who's like, they're paying off their student loans. Like if we had student loans, amazing. Not everyone was benefited enough to even get loans. But everyone is like thinking about what they're going to do with the money. And like, we're thinking about who we're going to support with the money. So it's like, gotta, pay off some debt for mom or dad or grandma. Yeah. And it was like how many family members we had to support because of this was like super beneficial. Like, cause it's all about your lineage, your family tree. Can we bring more of our cousins, nephews, nieces, uncles into the fold and like understand this? And it was just like kind of surreal that we were having this conversation while the entire company was having another conversation. And I feel good about like what I did with my Microsoft stock and who I was able to help out and how I could basically expand my reach of like who I can impact and mentor. But it's just something you just don't think about, even with talking about the time and the money, but also like the family.
Oh yeah. The individuals that go through our program, Resilient Coders, would not be able to do it without a stipend.
Yeah.
Just fundamentally not possible. Too many folks rely on them to provide. And so taking extra time, especially for as rigorous as a course it is, just not possible. And even like when the pandemic hit and we decided to go remote, the main reason we went remote was because we knew we had to protect those families. Our students aren't going back to their 1-bedroom condos. They're going back to an intergenerational household that might have 4 generations in it.
Yeah.
And so we realized that impact very early on, that if we can get one person a job, and in fact, one of the best recruitment pathways we have is people's brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles that come back because they see that it works and that change it can have in one family. And I like that you brought that up too, is that there's a lot on the line. That's not just our individual success, it's our people's success. And that's been something that we've carried for years.
Yeah.
Centuries.
No, it's literally that, because there's so many variables that go into somebody changing their lineage. You'd mentioned in passing, but like redlining.
Yeah.
It was like literally a thing that we could not live. And I say we, underrepresented folks, as we come to the space, like we could not specifically live in certain neighborhoods. Yeah. Because it wasn't set out for us.
Yeah.
And that becomes kind of astounding, because like even here in LA, where we're recording this, there's like certain neighborhoods that are now being gentrified that growing up, I'm like, I wouldn't drive to the Watch District. Yeah. My grandpa, I remember my grandpa driving me down like the Rodney King, like the experience of like all the writing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, hey, this is where that happened. This is where that happened. And I'm just like, I didn't know any of that stuff because I'm like 11 years old. I'm just like, I sort of remember people saying Rodney King.
Yeah.
But like, that's now all new housing and all gentrification. And it's amazing because it's nice that the neighborhoods is nicer, but where are all those folks? Like, where did they move to?
And that's why I think a lot of the work that we're doing is really important. I love what you're doing with open source and the work that you've done to support our people, because I think like in 2016, the Obama administration put out this dossier that was like 83% of jobs that make $20 or less are going to be automated away.
Yeah.
So if we're already in areas that are being redlined, if we're already in areas that are being gentrified, and our jobs are being taken away from us, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
What? And we know the cavalry ain't coming because they don't see the double-digit unemployment rates. Like, what is the solution? Right?
Yeah.
And so the work that you've done, I think, is impactful. The work that we're trying to do at RC is trying to do something, because the revolution's coming, right? It's coming. If you looked at what happened with industrialization, like early 1911, when they got like Labor Day and all that stuff. The reason why we have Labor Day is because we had riots. People died
Yeah.
because of this industrialization, loss of jobs. And so we're seeing that now already. It's about to get way worse.
Yeah.
2 million call center workers with GPT running around, getting better at that every single day. 3 million truck drivers that are going to have their jobs taken away. It's going to get wild.
It's the what's fascinating, because they're in this you mentioned Labor Day, but like also the strikes, that writer strikes that are happening right now, like all the folks who are in the lower level jobs inside the movie industry. But there was the notion of like when the telephone became automated.
Yeah.
They had the operators, and everyone was like all up in arms about all these folks who are going to lose their jobs. Actually, my grandma, who I mentioned, she worked for Bloomingdale's as a computer.
Yeah.
And she would do the sort of
That's so cool. Yeah.
the sort of switchboard stuff like that. It was like her first job, because my family's actually from Cuba.
Yeah.
First job over the gateway, 90 miles from Cuba to Miami, and that was her role. And like, it wasn't a role she stuck with, but it was a role that went away really quickly. Like, you don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
So like, all those folks had to find the next thing. And you'd mentioned a couple times around COVID and everything going remote, you started something, and you mentioned 100 devs. Could you talk about that origin story of 100 devs and what that was doing?
So pandemic hit. A lot of folks, of course, were struggling. A lot of folks lost their jobs or didn't have the privilege of working throughout that time. And so I'm not a doctor. I didn't know what skills I could bring to help. And so I have been teaching for a while now. I've been teaching tech education for a while. And I said, maybe we could do this online. And I really thought it'd be like me and like 10 people. And I decided, you know what? Let's put it all online. Let's make it live. And we can talk about why I think live is really, really important. I think it's something that's been missing in the space, but I wanted to do it live. I wanted to do it for folks. And our first cohort wound up having 300 plus people a stream tuning in to like go through this course live.
Wait, how did 300 people even find out about it?
Reddit. Yeah. Reddit was a big source. Twitter was a big source. As you know, a lot of our RC students have gone on to have amazing followings. You work personally with Rizal, Paris, folks that know what we're able to accomplish and do and that have benefited from it. We're able to promote it as well. So first cohort was about 300 folks. Our goal, why we're called 100 devs, is because we wanted to get 100 people jobs. And we did it. In that first cohort, by the very end, we were already at 77, a couple months after we hit our 100 goal. And so that was it. I wanted to get 100 people jobs. With our first cohort, we did it. And these are folks that went from, it was a $53,000 average increase in their job. So not only did they lose a $30,000 job, but they came back to an $80,000 plus job. So that had a huge impact, and it was for anyone, anywhere. So they had to be from the US. Our first jobs were from Brazil, Poland, the UK. And when 2022 rolled around, we said, all right, we're going to do it again, but we learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. I'm going to fix a lot of things, and it went viral. And so we had 7,000 plus people on some of our classes. We kind of hovered around 3,000 people live. And even though our cohort's been done for almost 6 months now, we still have 300 people every single day that do stand up together live. So it's a fantastic community, 50,000 plus on Discord, that are learning for free, that has a community to go through it. We always talk that we're community taught, that we're not doing it alone. We're doing it live, and our jobs now are out of this park. So we had over $500,000 in client work from the last cohort that people brought in, because you have to get a client, you have to contribute to open source, and you have to do a 100 hours project. And so we had over $500,000 in client work brought in. We had over 300 grassroots orgs that were supported building actual products for them. We had over 350 open source contributions to all the big stuff, like even the current stuff like Astro, Material UI, MDN, some Mozilla projects. And then we're over 400 jobs now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What an impact that this is making. I mentioned that we have one engineer who's working with us who went through at least part of the 100 devs community. He mentioned he didn't go through the whole courses, but he had 100 devs in his hashtag on his profile. I reached out, was like, hey, you see you contributing to our open source project. Like, do you want a job?
Yeah.
And he's now leading our front end.
That's amazing. Yeah. They're badasses. Talking about people that want to materially change their lives, that are hungry, they're going to put in the work to learn these things, and that are now leading the charge. We have folks that have gone on to work at Amazon, Microsoft, all the big tech companies, and even lead the local communities that they already belong in.
Wow. So what's next? What's the plan for 100 devs now? And then also RC as well. Like what's next for that organization?
So for us, there's kind of two pieces. One is that we understand that resilient coders, that being free isn't enough. And so we provide a stipend, because not everyone has the privilege of time, and they need that time that they'd be in class with us to work, or to take care of their children, or to whatever things they need to attend to. And so from the very beginning, to be equitable, we've provided a stipend to our resilient coders folks. And now we're expanding outside of Boston. We're in Philadelphia. We're looking at other areas to expand to. And so we're trying to prove that model that we had at RC in other cities and build up communities of folks there. With 100 devs, we've opened it to the world. So anyone that wants to learn how to code can join us. However, we haven't been able to provide stipends because it's thousands and thousands of people. So how do we do this change at scale? And 100 devs will always be free. All my resources are free. All my videos, curriculum, everything is online. Most of it's on GitHub. So we'll never charge anyone. But we realize that free is not enough. And so our community developers are building an agency. And the idea with the agency is that we're going to have individuals that work at the best tech companies that have all graduated from 100 devs are coming back to lead projects. Those projects are then broken down into individual issues that anyone that is learning can contribute to and get their share of the money that came in through that project. And so all the profit that comes into the agency gets distributed to the folks that are learning. So they're not just learning for free, they're getting paid to learn. And then ultimately, as we scale, we see two bigger verticals, kind of like a pull request as a service. So companies that value the work that we provide can just simply use our bot to give issues. We complete them from folks in our community. And then long-term, we want to build our own products, where the monies that come in through those products get distributed to all the workers that are part of 100 devs. And a small portion of every single thing that we do goes into a pool. So when you graduate, you get the share of that pool. So it's an incentive to get through the program as well.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm enjoying everything I'm hearing about this. And I have so much more thoughts and insights I'd love to talk offline about this.
Yeah, let's do it.
It sounds like we have concentric synergies happening right now. And would love to chat more, but I know we're running up against time.
Sure.
So I appreciate you coming up
Thanks for having me.
Up the 10 to come chat with us. And looking forward to collaborating more with 100 devs for sure.
Love it. Appreciate it for having me.
Yeah. And stay saucy.
Stay saucy.